Hello and welcome to the OBC News. I am Wells the King. I am very honoured to be announced as the show's third host. It is an honour that I would. Let's get to our top story this evening. Former England striker and Tottenham's record goal scorer Jimmy Greaves has died at the age of 81. Greaves began his career with Chelsea before spells at AC Milan, Spurs and West Ham. He scored 44 goals in 57 games for England and was a member of the 1966 World Cup winning squad. He holds the record for most goals in the English top flight with 357 and scored 266 in 379 matches. Greaves' 41 goals in the 1961 remains a record in a season for Chelsea, as he also holds the Spurs record with 37 in 1962 to 1963. A Tottenham statement read, "We are extremely saddened to learn of the passing of Jimmy Greaves, not just Tottenham Hotspur's record goal scorer, but the finest marksman this country has ever seen." Jimmy passed away at home in the early hours of aged 81. Prime Minister Boris Johnson tweeted, "Sad to hear the news about Jimmy Greaves. He will be remembered as a goal-scoring legend and one of the greats of English football." Former Spurs striker Gary Lineker described him as a giant of the sport. Well, all of us here at OBC are paying tribute to Jimmy Greaves, and our thoughts are with his family at this moment. Australia has defended its decision to scrap a multi-billion-dollar in favour of a new security pact with the US and UK. Prime Minister Scott Morrison rejected accusations Australia had lied, saying France should have been aware and prepared to break the deal. France says the pact has led to a serious crisis. In an unprecedented move, it is for the US and Australia as a sign of protest. Under the AUKUS pact, Australia will be given the technology of nuclear submarines as a way of countering China's influence to the contested South China Sea. The partnership has ended a deal worth $37 billion signed by Australia in 2016 for France to build 12 conventional submarines. France said it was informed of the pact only hours before earlier this week. Mr. Morrison on Sunday said he understands France's decision, but that he has always been clear about Australia's position. The French government would have had every reason to know that we have deep and grave concerns. Let's have a look at our third story this evening. The new Taliban mayor of Kabul has told female municipal employees to stay home unless their jobs cannot be filled. Hamdullah Normi said the Taliban found it necessary for a while. It is the latest restriction imposed on Afghanistan's women by the country's hardline new Islamic government. During their previous rule in the 1990s, women were education and after seizing the country last month following the withdrawal of US. The Taliban said women's rights to vote would be respected within the framework of Islamic law, but the Taliban favour a strict system. Since taking power, working women have been told to stay home and the security situation improves. However, protesting against the all-male interim government. And also this evening, John Challis, aged 79. His family said he died peacefully in his sleep after a long battle. Co-star Sir David Jason paid tribute to Challis as a wonderful actor and a gentleman in the true sense of the word. Apologies for that. His character was a second-hand car dealer, Terence Aubrey Boyce. He was a fan favourite with comedy fans. He starred in the show alongside Sir David Jason and Nicholas Lyndhurst throughout its time on air from the first episode in 1981 right through to the final show in 2003. The character, who was both a long-time former character Del Boy, was initially due to appear in just one scene, but the pair grew in prominence as the series progressed. As I said earlier, OBC or OBC are paying tribute to him and our thoughts. We'll be right back after the break. You're watching OBC News. Welcome back to the OBC Evening News. Apologies for the technical difficulties in the first half. We will try and get them fixed. We start again with the boss of a US company that supplies 60% of food-grade carbon dioxide supply has held crisis talks with the government over shortages. I apologize. Tony Will, chief executive of CF Industries, arrived in the UK early production of its 2 fertilizer plants because of soaring wholesale gas prices. Food firms are warning a shortage of CO2 is threatening produce supplies. High global demand for gas has been blamed. Carbon dioxide is used to stun animals prior to slaughter and is in dry ice form to keep food fresh for storage and transport. It is a byproduct of fertilizer. Last week, CF Industries, the UK's biggest CO2 producer, stopped production at its Teesside and Cheshire fertilizer due to high natural gas prices. Wholesale gas prices have jumped by 250% since January, according to Oil and Gas UK, the industry. Boris Johnson will urge world leaders to take concrete action during meetings at the UN's General this week. The Prime Minister will also visit the White House for the first time since Joe Biden became US President. He is expected to push Mr. Biden on the looming humanization crisis in Afghanistan and the potential of reopening UK to US travel. The visit comes ahead of the COP26 climate summit in Glasgow in November, with some 100 world leaders expecting the UN General Assembly this week. Mr. Johnson will seek to galvanise action in a series of high-level meetings. Now, children in the UK aged 12 are said to be able to get a COVID jab following advice from the UK's chief medical officers. They have recommended the youngsters should be offered 1 dose of the Pfizer vaccine. Some other countries have been vaccinating younger teenagers for some approaches, but approaches do differ. Now, it's happening in Europe. In May, the EMA approved the Pfizer vaccine for 12 to 15-year-olds. Since then, different EU countries have moved at different speeds. For example, Denmark and Spain have both now vaccinated most of their child population with at least a single dose. France too have also been moving quickly, with 66% of those aged 12 to 17 a single jab and 52% fully vaccinated. By October, the country's health pass pass sanitary will be extended to under 18s, meaning teenagers need to show proof of vaccination or a negative test to access places like cinemas, museums, restaurants, and indoor shopping centers. In May, US and Canadian regulators will jab use in children from 12 and older. The rollout started immediately at sites across the US, with 2 injections given. By the end of July, 42% of 12 to 17-year-olds have received their first dose, and 32% their second dose of either the Pfizer or Moderna shots. The drive to vaccinate children came as the US started to battle a rise in infections driven by the Delta variant. The latest report from the Centre for Disease Control said that the number of children hospitalized was between 3.4 and 0.7 times higher in states with the lowest vaccination coverage. A handful of US school boards have voted to make the jab mandatory for children aged 12 and over to attend class, despite objections by some parents. That is the latest, and I really hope that 12 to 15-year-olds get their jab sooner rather than later, as cases have been going in some areas. The Speaker of the House of Commons says TV shows can help counter dignitaries in Coronation Street studio. Sir Lindsay Hoyle showed parliamentary proceeding officers with some of the world's richest nations around the ITV set after a G Lancashire. Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the US House of Representatives, was hearing about the show's impact. The show's producer Ian McLeod said their visit was an incredible honor. I think it's time to go to a break now. We'll be right back after this short video. Welcome back. And finally tonight, news anchors have a certain way of saying goodbye. Walter Cronkite had, and that is, Dan Rather had courage. And of course Ron Burgundy had Stay Classy San Diego. But what should I say? You can give me suggestions in our Discord server at the link in the description below. But for now, that is the OBC Evening News. I've been Wellesley King. Good evening.